It's my pleasure to introduce Myron Buchholz.
Good evening. This is a tough crowd to follow. But, you know, I was a teacher for a long time, and I know one thing. When you've sat this long, you deserve a stretch break. So I'm inviting you all to stand up and stretch your legs a little bit and take a little pressure off those gluteus maximus. Jeff is leading calisthenics.
Hand me that coffee. Thank you.
Feel better now, do you?
Yeah.
See, my name is Myron Buchholz, and I never liked my first name for the longest time because you never read a children's book and find a character named Myron. And then I got involved in history, and I found out that my name, its origin comes from myrrh. And when I found out that I was one of the original gifts to baby Jesus, I felt a lot better about that. Now, it would have rather been frankincense or gold, but you take what you can get. When I said to some of my friends and acquaintances late last year that I was going to run for Congress, I had some people look at me and say, "Myron, why would you do that?" And I said, well, let me tell you. I taught high school history for 34 years. For the last 18 of them here at Eau Claire Memorial. When my late wife Janet and I landed in Eau Claire in 1997, we were told that we were on the side of town that was well off, and the number of students that received free and reduced lunches at Eau Claire Memorial was 7%. When I retired in June of last year, that number had gone up to 25%. And I was told by a school counselor this last school year that that number has gotten even higher. Statewide, we are moving towards a time when 50% of our public school students cannot afford to pay full price for an already inexpensive lunch. That's wrong. Now, it is true that some of the blame for that can be laid at the feet of Scott Walker and the Republicans. It's appropriate to boo here. But in all honesty, we can't put it all at their feet, because this trend had started before 2010, and to varying degrees is happening all across the country. Case in point, the Social Security Administration just recently put out a study that said 51% of our workforce, that is 80 million people, are earning less than $30,000 a year. Let that soak in for a moment. 80 million people earning less than $30,000 a year. There are a lot of kids in those families. The majority of our workforce is barely hanging on financially, and worse, getting poorer while they're working harder and longer than they ever have before. Why is this happening? Well, you know the answer. It's mostly because the very wealthy and a few corporations are in control of our political process. And that needs to stop. Those wealthy people and those corporations have coerced our politicians into signing up for these trade agreements that ship jobs to Mexico and China. And they stonewall efforts to raise the minimum wage to a living wage. We as a people cannot bargain collectively for prescription drugs, basic health care, hospital stays. Those same wealthy and those same corporations keep for-profit private corporations at the very center of our healthcare system. And then they take the wealth produced by the richest country in the world, by the hardest working people in the world, and they take that wealth and they stick it in the Cayman Islands, the offshore tax shelters, leaving us holding the tab and ending up further and further in debt. For decades, we have talked about Democrat versus Republican, liberal versus conservative, red versus blue. My God, we've got enough labels. But unfortunately, through that specter, that horrible corporate media that we have, what is being obscured is the fact that the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, and the middle class is rapidly becoming an endangered species. We are becoming a top-to-bottom nation. We need leaders who understand this very fact. We need leaders who are willing to say that out loud and declare publicly which side they're on. Now, I want to go to Congress, and I'll tell you that I'm not going to side with the bankers. I'm not going to side with the billionaires and the Wall Streeters and their lobbyists. I'm going to side with that single working mother going full-time at Walmart who has a hard time paying the rent and keeping the lights on. I'm going to side with the farmer who doesn't go to the doctor because his insurance policy has a $5,000 deductible. I'm going to side with the factory worker who sees her job shipped overseas and wonders if she can send her kid to college. I'm going to side with the college student who has done everything right and done what we have told them to do and comes out of college deep in debt, $35,000 average, in effect having a mortgage and no house. I'm going to side with the vet who has been deployed too many times to foolish wars, comes home to find a VA that's underfunded and understaffed, has a hard time seeing a doctor. And I'm going to side with the senior citizen who depends on Social Security and Medicare, and who does not have a post office box in the Cayman Islands or Panama. So I want to go to Congress. And I'll tell you this. I'm going to stand with the poor and the working class in the great democratic tradition of FDR. And I'm going to be on your side. Thank you.